Well, let me start by saying that business in particular has to be deeply concerned about the whole issue of climate change, the challenges it presents, the opportunities it creates. And let me start with some of the adverse impacts of climate change. As my good friend Bjorn Stigson says, business cannot succeed in a society which fails. And I think that's entirely true. And the threat of climate change and the impacts that it's going to impose certainly carry the danger of failure of several societies. And I suppose it is for this reason that the Norwegian Nobel Committee awarded the 2007 Peace Prize to Al Gore and the IPCC. And I hope this year's winner of the Nobel Peace Prize will carry forward the philosophy of doing something about climate change. But we'll find out. How would climate change impacts adversely affect business? Well, there will be many more floods, there will be many more droughts, there will be many more heat waves, extreme precipitation events, and each of these has a major economic impact. And each of these would require business to take actions by which it can adapt to these circumstances. Sea level rise, for instance. You know very well that a large number of industrial establishments and businesses are located in coastal areas. And therefore, they are extremely vulnerable to the problem of sea level rise. And we know today that sea level rise is something that has an enormous amount of inertia built into this entire system, as a result of which, even if we were to bring our emissions down to zero today, the inertia in the system will continue with sea level rise for several years. One of the things that we've estimated in the fourth assessment report of the IPCC is that even with a limit to temperature increase of 2 degrees to 2.4 degrees Celsius, and this of course would require very stringent mitigation of the emissions of greenhouse gases, you will have sea level rise on account of thermal expansion alone of about 0.4 to 1.4 meters. That's the range that we have estimated. It won't happen overnight, it'll take time, because the oceans warm slowly. And today, we have warming having gone down from the surface, from where it started, to about 3,000 meters below. But there's a great deal more that's going to happen. And how this is going to impact on the thermal expansion of the oceans is a very simple exercise that a schoolboy who studies physics can easily calculate and let you know. And what I'm talking about is sea level rise only on account of thermal expansion. With this limited increase in temperature, which of course the world is going to have to make a major effort to ensure. But think of the other factor that is responsible for sea level rise, the melting of the ice bodies across the globe. You add to this level of increase the addition that would arise as a result of melting of the ice bodies, you're probably going to get close to a meter. That's purely speculation. I'm not putting that forward as an exact figure. But I think it's reasonable to expect that that's the kind of figure you would end up with. And a meter of sea level rise will affect several regions of the world, possibly Denmark as well. But certainly it's going to wipe out the small island states, many of them, several other low-lying coastal areas. So you can imagine business and industry would really find it very, very difficult to remain in operation if we have that kind of an outcome. So I'm only providing the reasons why the global community, including business and industry and the leadership of business and industry, must take climate change very seriously. But having said so, you have enormous opportunities by which you can really make things work. And as I said yesterday when I had the privilege of speaking briefly over here, I really feel that it is within our reach. It is really within the capability, both in respect of technology, economic well-being, and the human resources that the planet has today for us to bring about a major transformation of human society. And this has happened before. You go back thousands of years, our ancestors were hunters and gatherers. Then they found the magic of agriculture, and this brought about a major social transformation in human society. We didn't have to go out hunting and gathering stuff. We could grow it in our backyards. And then came along the Industrial Revolution, essentially driven by the invention of the steam engine. And that transformed everything. Whatever was done earlier by way of exercising energy for production of goods and services, for consumption of a whole range of goods and services, really came from muscular power, whether it was our own muscles or the muscles of horses and other animals. But now we were able to completely do away with that form of energy, and the steam engine gave us an opportunity by which we produced more and more goods and services, were able to use fuels, fossil fuels like coal, then moved on to oil and natural gas. And in that process, we never really realized the impact that we are going to create on the planet's climate and the stability of that climate system. So as a result, we brought about the problem of climate change today. But having achieved these three major transformations in the past, I think today we are faced with the opportunity, the exciting journey of being able to bring about a transformation in a totally different direction. A transformation that would bring us back close to nature, and a transformation by which those very sources of energy which we have neglected for so long but have been available, and indeed which have been tapped very successfully in countries like Denmark, are now going to be the foundation of human civilization and the power by which we are able to move ahead. So this is really the challenge. And I would say business and industry, not in isolation, but in partnership with civil society and in tandem with government, would need to bring about a major shift in the way we pursue business opportunities. And you can imagine the gigantic opportunity that lies before us if, as Dr. Steve Chu mentioned to you, the US, which is committed to an 80% reduction in greenhouse gases by 2050, if that's going to happen, if we're going to move on that path, and the world is going to bring about a reduction of about 50% of these greenhouse gases in the aggregate by 2050, this is a remarkable opportunity. And you can imagine that a country like the US, which produces over 20 tons per capita of greenhouse gas emissions, is going to bring them down to about 2 tons per capita. Then clearly all the things that Dr. Chu presented to you, purely as pies in the sky at this point of time, purely as a gleam in the eye of scientists and leaders like him, will become reality. And this is the exciting opportunity that business and industry would have. I want to give you one simple example of what is in store. The country that I come from, India, has recently seen the Union Cabinet, the country's cabinet, approve of our solar energy mission, which has a whole range of provisions of things that need to be done. But one very important target that's been specified over there is the development and establishment of 20,000 megawatts of solar capacity in the next 11 years. This may not seem like a lot, but imagine the technology, the cost, and the complexities associated with that size of increase in solar capacity anywhere in the world is really an exciting challenge. And if we are going to look at that opportunity, it's really not confined only to India. If it happens in a country like India, it's going to spread very soon. And depending on the agreement we get in Copenhagen, hopefully by the end of this week, there will be similar opportunities, similar inspiration and incentives for all the countries of the world to move towards using renewable energy on a much larger scale than we could have ever imagined.